Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sanjay Kumar. I am the Chief Data and AI Officer at Exponentia, and it is great to have you all with us for this session on fast-tracking SAP test data management as part of our enterprise S/4HANA journey. Now, SAP mandate has put a spotlight on testing, and rightly so, across enterprises. We are seeing testing cycles slowing down because of the data accuracy constraint, validation, and the complexities, which is leading towards the heavy non-production environments. Now, this overall challenge of change management is actually putting everyone to look for the solutions. And today we are joined by our partners at Qlik, who will bring their deep expertise in SAP data management through Qlik Gold Client. Now I know you might be, either know what is Qlik Gold Client is, or you might be wondering what is it. And that's the whole purpose of today's session, to inform you, to educate you, and help you to understand what Qlik Gold Client is and how it can help. Now, they will walk us through how enterprises are using Gold Client to cut the complexity from migration and testing programs. Now, with that, I would like to welcome Adrian and Sunil to introduce themselves and talk about who they are, and then we'll go into the session on the Qlik Gold Client. So I'll pass it on to Sunil first and then to Adrian.
Thank you, Sanjay. I appreciate the welcome and your introduction. So as you mentioned, Qlik are a leader in data integration and SAP test data management. I've been at Qlik for around 7 years, and I manage the manufacturing and consumer goods vertical across the United Kingdom and Ireland. So many of my customers use SAP and have been leveraging Gold Client to accelerate their ability to migrate to S/4HANA, and also simplify and accelerate how they manage SAP data in non-productive environments. So I'm pleasure to be here today, and I'll hand over to Adrian.
Thank you, Sunil, and good morning, everyone. So my name's Adrian Bromell. My background is as an SAP solution architect with over 27 years experience helping enterprises manage and optimize their SAP landscapes. At Qlik, I'm responsible for driving the adoption of the Gold Client solution across the EMEA region to enable customers to securely manage, refresh, and transform their SAP data. All this is built up on a background of working as an SAP implementation partner, working and managing an SAP team for an end user before doing 7 years pre-sales at SAP in the UK. So I bring with that a wealth of experience of implementing SAP, managing SAP, and now enabling customers to enjoy the benefits of those years of experience.
Brilliant. Thank you very much both. That's fantastic, and it's a pleasure to have you in the session today. Now, let me just deep dive and set the context before we move on. So, as we know, organizations are working towards S/4HANA, but they are yet testing remains one of the biggest speed breaker. So testing is still the challenge, whether it has been pulling full production data set into the test systems, or dealing with the privacy and masking concerns, or struggling to maintain the referential integrity. The bottlenecks are consistent across the industries, right? Doesn't matter which industry you are trying to do this, you always hit these kind of roadblocks. So today's session is all about how we can make this simpler, faster, and more reliable using the Qlik Gold Client with the Exponentia.ai driven testing framework. Now, let me just quickly move into the core discussion. So I will start with you, Adrian, as you are the expert in the Gold Client. So you have worked across countless SAP landscapes. And before we talk about that solutions, I would love to hear your perspective. What are the top test data challenges organizations are facing today? And why do these challenges slow down the S/4HANA migration, or how they impact significantly during that migration process? over to you, Adrian.
Perfect. Thank you, Sanjay. So what I'd like to do today is literally bear out those years of experience of understanding what are the challenges with the SAP data. And you've got to go back to almost first principles and fully understand that SAP runs everything in your business. Okay, it manages the process orders, it manages your revenues, it manages your purchases, it enables you to pay vendors, employees, receive money in from customers, and of course manage the books. And my accounting background is why I started my journey in the world of SAP. So it's very much the lifeblood of your business. You cannot get this wrong. Okay, we all know that SAP is forcing us to move by the end of 2027. So you have to move to S/4HANA. You have got no choice. What that means is you've got two options open to you, or even a third, a blue field, a hybrid in between. So either you want to run a full business transformation project, and that's like re-implementing SAP all over again. What does your business need? What does the software solution provide? What are the best practices? How can you make the most of that? And obviously you've then got to fit and dovetail the two together. And the transformation project means you've got to bring those individuals in the organization along with you. The alternative, the other end of the scale, is to actually run this as a brownfield or just a technical migration upgrade. So that sounds all well and good. Yes, we might go down that route. It's going to be quicker. It's more technical. I don't need to affect the business quite so much. But is that really the case? You have to go through, you have to apply all of those upgrades, all of those changes. You then have to run through and provide all of the testing against that. Does that work? What are the changes that you now need to adopt? We all know from those hot pack upgrades that you've been through, you've run, you've made the changes, you've done the testing, it didn't work. You have to apply an OSS note, you have to apply a fix, you now have to retest everything. There comes a point where you've absolutely burned through all of that data that you have. What do you do then? That is where the real challenge comes in. That is what we're looking to address and fix today. So if I were to ask you, you're embarking on this project, your business transformation to S4, what is the one thing that you need? Now you're going to get a different answer depending who it is that you talk to. So if you're talking to the SAP manager, they're going to say, I don't have the time and resources to deliver this. We're running out of the deadline of moving to S/4HANA by the end of 2027. Otherwise, we'll have to pay for the expensive extended warranty period that SAP will allow us to go through. We all know the SAP projects take years. Therefore, how are we going to cram this into that time frame? We can't do it on our own. We will need an SI partner or transformation partner, particularly if we're going down the green field or the blue field approach. What do we do with the commercially sensitive data in our system? We've got all these externals now rummaging around our SAP system. We're supposed to try and meet GDPR compliance, but more commercially sensitive data, we're going to want to hide from them. We don't want them having that information and potentially sharing that despite NDAs and so on in place. The functional testing teams will be sitting there going, I've got all this testing coming up. Where do I get it? The pain points today of doing a full SAP client copy or system refresh means downtime. The SAP team are sitting around waiting for that data to come across. So it's not on demand. You can't find that window of opportunity when you want to copy that data. And we're going to need to run through these testing cycles multiple times. It's not just a one-time activity. You're going to end up running the same tests multiple times. Now, the one that a lot of people overlook is who owns the budget for the SAP infrastructure. If you find them and you ask them, the only thing they're going to be worried about is, have we got deep pockets enough to make this work for us? Let's explore this a little bit further because a lot of people overlook this. So let's take an example of a 4.5 terabyte ERP system. Okay. If you want a development box on the SAP RISE environment, they'll happily give you the first 256 gigabytes free as part of that contract. So check the small print. But what that means is if you go over that size, you're going to have to add another terabyte of memory, and that is going to cost you. Okay, one of our customer base, they've been sharing some of the values and the metrics with me, which is where I brought the data for this slide together. When you start building out a QA system, we know that you can easily be paying £15 per gigabyte per year just for HANA memory. So if we take this example of 4.5 terabytes, so 4,500 gigabytes, you're easily looking at spending £68,000. But the memory's not enough. You have to put that on a box. That box has to have the capacity to run your SAP QA environments and any other clients you want in that. You can see here an Azure P200 box with a 5 terabyte capacity is going to cost you. So what do you get at the end of the day? Okay, well, maybe you're going to move to SAP Rise. Whoopee, I get 2 free system copies a year from SAP. Okay, I'm not going to get too excited about that because you're going to be copying 4.5 terabytes every single time. They're going to be happy with that because they're raking in the money from the size of the infrastructure. You're going to have to worry about the downtime. How long do these refreshes take? When am I going to have them? What if I need something in the interim? Are you going to be able to scramble the data in those environments to keep those prying eyes out of the commercially information that you want to hide? And guess what? That's all for the bargain price of £270,000 per year going forward. Okay, so how are you going to be able to manage that and influence that cost? Okay, so those are the data challenges and the impacts of those challenges. So what are the potential opportunities open for you? Qlik have a solution. It's called Gold Client. It's been in the market since 2000 and is currently the only test data management solution listed on the SAP store, and is there. It's designed to support anything on the SAP ABAP stack, and it is, as you would expect, not only an SAP add-on, but it is certified for HANA, for ECC, and for the RISE environment as well. So it can be trusted and relied upon now and however your journey progresses in the future. The architecture is really simple. All we're going to ask you to do is to install a few transports into your SAP productive client and your non-productive clients, so there's no additional hardware needed. Having done that, you'd expect that to go into our own namespace. The idea being is that you're going to be able to select the data that you want to use for these testing activities, export that data from production. Technically, it's stored in a shared file server and the files are compressed so they take up the least amount of space. And then once you've got those files, you can import those into your target clients as often as you want. What that means is you can now load data into development, something you can't do today. You can do your unit testing there before you release and move transports. That's a great benefit. We can move data into your QA systems. Once you've tested it, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, maybe you need to reload it and retest. You can reload the same files over and over again. Our conflict check means we can decide, or the functional teams more importantly, can decide, do we want to overwrite the data and start again and rerun the test from scratch from the initial settings, or do we want to pick up, add in additional data and start the testing cycles on the new data from that point? It gives you that freedom and flexibility. The entire process is managed with no system downtime, no client downtime, and forget transaction BDLS. That has gone, disappeared. That's not going to slow you down in the future. We are able to scramble the data. We do that on export before we create those export files that you're going to use. You cannot reverse engineer that data. So you cannot see what the original values were. What that means is any SI partners or external consultancies working on your SAP environment, they're only going to see the data amended the way you want it amended as it arrives in those non-productive clients. And you can restrict where those clients open up. As you can appreciate, you have multiple systems, multiple clients. You might want to restrict where that data goes. To keep things as fast and efficient as possible, we only use SAP's recommended best practice of direct exports, direct inserts to bring that data into those clients. So it's quick, it's lean, it's simple for you to use. So this is going to enable you to do prototyping and testing, so you can quickly copy the subsets of data that you need when you need them. You're not waiting for that one window of opportunity. If the sales team want to import data, they can do that at the same time as the procurement teams are finishing off testing of the data they already have. They can then refresh the data they want, and you can work in silos without treading on each other's toes. The way that we do this is we enable the SAP functional teams or the testing teams in the larger organizations to flexibly select any data they want from the source and bring that to the target client. That can be done based on a time slice. It can also be restricted by individual company codes, plants, cost centers. You might even go down to the fact that you want 25 sales orders to look at a new release strategy, or you have a production support issue with a purchase order and you want to diagnose that in a safe environment. So you can build up the data that you want, whether you want months worth or years worth or individual documents, the flexibility is there. Having got the data into the target client, you can copy off that data. Having done that, you can either delete that data in the target client, or you can choose to re-import the original data again and bring that in as many times as you want. So this allows you, similar to the hot pack testing and the technical upgrade you might use going to S4, to allow you to bring in the same data, run the same tests on the same data. The functional teams are used to that. They know the records that they want, they know the expected outcomes. That will speed up those testing cycles that they run through. The way that it works is Gold Client comes pre-delivered with a data model based on the version of ECC 6 or S4 that you're looking to use. Because it does that, you can start at the beginning of the business process. Gold Client automatically finds everything else. And if you need to modify that, and we validate that as part of any project. So it maps exactly to the way that you're using your SAP system, both now and in the future. Yes, we fully expect you to have 1 or 2 additional custom tables that you want to map into those processes. And it's easy to do that. So what are the benefits of using Gold Client? Now, obviously this is relevant for S4, so I'm going to steer my arguments and suggestions towards that, but there are some other use cases that can be touched upon as well. When we offer you the ability to copy data based on a time slice, we're unique in the fact that we give you a from and a to date, which drives additional benefits for you. Some customers turn around, I need 6 months of data to play with. You might ask them why, and they'll go, because I do. Okay. Sometimes you want to be a little more specific and granular. So what we can do, if you want 6 months, we can break it into 6 1-month chunks. That means that we can run the exports and the imports in parallel, again, without impacting the production system performance. And you can bring that data in quicker than you would normally expect that to happen. You might have business scenarios that run over those 6 months. So maybe procurement, you do contract, you draw down using a Kanban approach potentially, and therefore you want to bring in additional older months worth of data. Well, with Gold Client, it's simple to do that. Just select the months that you don't have and you can bring those in. It's not like we have to go back to the start and now copy 9 months, repeat everything we've already exported and bring that in. So again, a massive time saver, additional flexibility, which is what you want when you're rushing to do a job like this S4 migration. That will also then enable you to do Delta copies. So the idea is that let's automate this. You don't need to make the functional teams responsible for selecting and copying their data. You can even, just having done that, maybe you have a full copy of production. Fine. What you can do here is you can then automate bringing that new data in on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. And therefore the functional and testing teams always have what they need automatically. Now, Gold Client is going to provision or bring in the data that you want to use. You could have automated testing tools. It really doesn't matter which one you use or have in your arsenal. The idea is that you're going to link that to the Gold Client solution, a series of ABAP programs. You're just going to run those. It will bring in the data that you want. You can execute on those tests, and you can wrap up the holistic end-to-end approach of that testing approach within the organization. Now, we went back to that poor person who's got to find the money to run your new shiny S4 system. Without Gold Client, you could have had a 10 terabyte SAP system. When you move to S4 or a HANA database, there is a natural compression. Nothing to do with the solution, but there's a natural compression. And therefore, you need a slightly smaller amount of S4 to be procured. But you're in the realms of, I need a QA, I will need a development system, and initially you've obviously got to go through, retrain those users on what are the differences between ECC and S4. So you might be looking for 28 terabytes. I've chosen this example specifically because we have a customer in France who has a 7.4 terabyte production S4 environment. Their QA system today is just 350 gigabytes. And again, it's up to them how much data they want to copy back into QA training and dev. And you can see here that there's potentially a massive saving that they've been able to achieve. So the cost saving for them is being able to reduce. I've taken the example that we started off at the start, where our 4.5 terabyte example, their QA system is now just 500 gigabytes. That's conservative. You can be more aggressive and make it smaller. But if you can see here, we have the HANA saving costs of 60,000 a year, smaller box that you're going to put it on, and you've got no other additional hardware requirements. You're not leaving your poor SAP team to sit around and take a breather. You'll be able to put the foot on the floor and allow them to keep working through. It'll allow you to manage your development environment, which if you're on Rise could choose costly, and how are you going to manage and scramble commercially sensitive data or meet GDPR requirements? Okay, other things you need to factor into that business use case. So how do you get from the start to the finish? Okay, one example here is of a brownfield migration. It is with a customer that uses Gold Client, and they used it for their execution of their technical upgrade, their brownfield migration. They originally had a 10 terabyte ECC6 system. What they did was they used Gold Client to create a smaller, fully functional environment. It stored 20 company codes worth of data. They copied 3 months worth of data for every single company code, and it took them less than 8 hours to set that up. Having got that environment, and the reason they chose that is that 3 months worth of data provided them with all of the open undelivered sales orders, purchase orders, financial records, everything that they needed to be able to take over and provide quality data for testing. They applied the S4 upgrade process to that, and then simply rinsed and repeated, copying that environment to another client, again using Gold Client to copy those subsets in as often as they needed based on the individual testing team's speed of working through using up their data. And as you'd expect, it's entirely up to them. Do you want to manage your S4 environment yourselves? Do you want to provide it to a cloud provider? In which case you don't want to give them 10 terabytes to try and load at some point into the cloud. Give them the small, fully functional client. Let them load it. The proof of value is that much quicker. They can then extrapolate out based on your SAP design, your tables, how that data is going to look, how fast it will load into the cloud, and you can log on to your data, your system. You can validate that very quickly. So to summarize, we've been talking about data. How do I get the right data at the right time quickly? And obviously in a repeatable process that you can then run through for your S4 migration. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing greenfield, bluefield, brownfield, you still have the challenge of once you've managed to get the initial data loaded into your S4 environment, you need to now validate that. Does the master data need enhancing? Do the business processes mean that you've got to amend your business to transform it to meet those redesign of the processes, or do you want to modify some of those? It's entirely up to you, but it gives you that information for you to validate those tests you can then walk through. Remember, with all of this, you want to get to those proof points or those failure points as soon as possible so that you can actually build up and deliver that project. Just taking the timelines as an example, Vinci Energies, their brownfield migration to S4 was showcased by SAP. The entire project took 4 months. The testing cycle window of that was only 30 days. Now, if you think about it, that's quite incredible for what they managed to achieve. And as time ticks on to 2027, we all know the length of those projects. There might be more customers wanting to swap from their initial dream of doing let's do it all again from scratch and benefit from SAP's wisdom and insights, to we don't have time now, we have to do the rough and ready, take everything, but you can now run and manage that project in a clean, repeatable environment and make sure that all of your testing is enabling you to have a smoother transition as possible. Okay, so let's have a look now at the Gold Client solution itself. So I've walked you through that it's really easy to select and copy these subsets of data. How do we do this? How do we set the expectations of the SAP team to be able to want to adopt this solution to make their lives easier? So we have here my blue SAP screen, which is going to be my source. I have here my goldeny color, which is going to be my target. And I've got the option here. I've already loaded the Gold Client solution. So the left-hand side is mainly for the SAP Basis team. The middle part of the screen is mainly for the SAP functional teams. Why have we done it this way? Well, if you think about it, the functional teams understand the business processes. They're responsible for the design, they're responsible for the testing and any production support resolution. So it's really key to allow them to be able to bring in the data that they need when they need it. As I said, you've got the flexibility now that the procure to pay team can bring in the data when they want without affecting the order to cash team. And therefore, you're not going to be needing to rely on the SAP Basis team to be able to select and copy that data as a one-off window for all of the teams to use. They can now work in independent silos without treading on each other's toes. The SAP certification means if I jump to the target, I do have the option to import this data and even delete data in the non-productive clients. So if you want to scrap some of that data you've been using for testing, bring it in, start again from scratch, you can do, or you can just choose to overwrite. It gives the functional teams and testing teams greater flexibility. And the certification process means we have to disable those import and deletion capabilities in the source. Hence, they're not here. And even if you found the ABAP programs, you couldn't execute it. So the basis team, you might still want them to be able to bring in the larger chunks of data. So now by that, I mean, get them to bring in the master data. If you've already got it in there and you've been playing around with certain types of master data, you can choose just to bring in those types of data. It might be the fact that you've got so much data that you might even want to exclude some of those data types. So for example, Mercedes-Benz trucks in the US, they have 1 terabyte of material master records. 1 terabyte, but what does that mean? They've got 200 million material master records. No one in their right mind is going to import 200 million records and use them all for testing. So don't do it. You can save the money on the space. You can save the time on copying that data. Because with Gold Clients, when you copy a business transaction, you automatically get the relevant master data relating to that transaction brought in for you. You can even copy subsets of master data. So if you feel you want that little bit more, you can bring that in without bringing in their case, 1 terabyte's worth of data. You would be unique if you didn't have some Y or Z tables. We have a utility, it finds, it brings in those records. And if you do nothing else now, it will allow you to select and copy all of that data from the source to the target. At that point, you're really wanting to now hand over to the SAP functional teams to get what they want. As a last point for the basis team, you might want them to go through and compare a source to a target. What are the differences? Are there differences in the data dictionary, programs, workbench objects? This will allow you to identify those differences. What are the objects? What transport do they relate on? And you can synchronize those by aligning the environments with what's missing. If it doesn't need aligning, you can carry on. You can do your testing. No, it's not going to be impacted. And the way that we cope with differences in the data dictionary is engineered specifically such that if there are differences, Gold Client doesn't care. If there's field and there's data, and it will bring it in. If it matches, if it doesn't, it will just exclude it. Okay, so based on your data dictionary, it will work. It's not like using LSMW to load data. If it doesn't match exactly, it all goes horrible. Okay, that pain has disappeared. Now the fun part for the functional teams. We deliver out of the box over 500 data types that allow you to select and bring in the data that you're interested in. So it doesn't matter, do I want finance data? Do I want controlling data? Do I want HR, procurement, sales information? It's entirely up to me to choose these. So whether it's master data, transaction data, I've got data types that I can use. So if I want to start with sales documents, I can come in here, I can put in one that I want, or maybe I just use the selection and bring in a whole load. I might want sales orders created last week for a particular part of the business, and I can select those. I can schedule this job to run, obviously putting in the description so you can find the relevant data file to load. So using standard SAP job selection, job monitoring to run and execute this. Ideally, when you run this, you come in here and say, okay, I want to use parallel processing on import. It means we use the background jobs more efficiently to bring in, select and copy and move that data. We can look at the data in the target client. Does it exist already? And if so, do you want to overwrite it? And that's key for the functional teams. They might want to consolidate on testing data that they've already used and keep that and add to it. They might want to blow it all away, start again, and it just gives them that flexibility. A lot of customers out there have multiple SAP environments, maybe enterprise warehouse management, CRM, ERP. We can link all of those together. What that means is if I'm still copying my sales order, I can pick up any warehouse movements, I can pick up my business partner and CRM information, and I can bring those and synchronize so they're aligned and the same across all of the environments, even if I choose to scramble that data. Talking of scrambling data, the transformation rules are linked to the data types, meaning these will run automatically. That data will be anonymized. So when it comes in, it's all protected in the non-productive clients. If you have the authorization based on our own objects, you can turn those off because sometimes it's easier to have the genuine data, particularly if you're diagnosing production faults. Okay, so again, that's a way of you controlling it. If you do copy in data that way, you can go back, you can take it out because you can delete that or re-import, transform the data, overwrite, and again, you're back into compliance and hiding those commercially sensitive pieces of information. If I go to my target client, you'll see in true pre-sales fashion that sales order does not exist. I can go to the gold client screen. I can then select and import that data that we've just run. So I take this, execute it in foreground and accept. You notice they're replacing conflict data. So if it had been there, I'm just overwriting everything. And what it's doing now is it's inserting the information that it had from those files into those relevant tables. And there was about 630 different records it picked up to copy across. So to prove that, if I go to my sales order now, you'll see that I have the sold to, the business partners, the original delivery date, the materials, the line item quantities. I also have all of the follow-on documents. So maybe I want to have a look at my goods issue. Maybe I want to now display that document. I might want to link through to the finance documents. Gold Client essentially copied everything that existed relating to that one sales order from the source when it was copied to the target. Because we do the direct exports and inserts, the document numbers are the same. That means all of your data for end-to-end testing is going to be connected and reliable that you can then use for that process. Now, if we want to, we can go back to the Gold Client screen. I might want to retest something. We might have put through an upgrade or a patch and go, maybe I want to delete that data and start again. And if I now go 3, 2, 1, boom, that data's gone. So you've seen just how flexible, quick and easy it is to select and bring in data into my non-productive clients. So that's fine for individual documents or groups that you want to build up, and you can even set those in scenarios. You might want the lazy boy approach where you go in and literally I do want to take a slice of data. I might want to make that specific to a particular date range. I might want to make that specific particular company code, and you can use any of these selection parameters here and you can then execute this. This will allow you then to choose, do I want master data and or transaction data? And for a demonstration, I'd literally just click on I want everything. Okay, so we can now see that export being put together, and take this one here, number 37. You'll see here that it's picking up the number of records that are going to be associated with the individual data types. Is this enough for me to do the testing that I want? Will this information be transformed? And if I want to, I can now export all of this and I can import all of this. The beauty as well is if I want to then pick up some of this in a week's time, I can re-import the same data. So I'm able to reuse the data files as often as I need without going back to the source, without reselecting the data, and so on. I'm happy that this export ID has all of my company code information. I can adjust the date range. So it's going to bring in all my company codes, all my plants, all my data records, and I can now have it run for the last 7 days or the last month. So again, I can automate this, I can set this and forget this, and it's the flexibility of bringing in that data. Time permitting, we'd walk through the transformation rule capability, but you saw that the transformation types were assigned at the point that you export the data, and the ease of selecting, bringing in that data that you want to use. So what you're seeing with Gold Client is a way of allowing you to step into your S4 migration project safe in the knowledge that you can now go and grab any data that you need whenever you need it by your functional teams to support the testing activities they need to do. So this will enable you to reduce the amount of time that you need to run an S4 testing cycle and deliver higher value and results to the project, causing you less problems going forward into the future. Thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant, Adrian. Thank you very much for that. I know it took a bit long, but I think it was quite, a transition from the Gold Client, because my next question for the attendees was really to showcase them the execution which you successfully did. Now, with that, I would like to move on to Sunil. So Sunil, you regularly speak with enterprise clients across different transformation programs. And, when you interact with them, what are the executives most concerned about when it comes to scaling up SAP testing and migration? And how are you seeing organization rethinking their strategy around data readiness? And the client I speak to are kind of they are also embarking on a business transformation, and as part of a move to S4, they are very concerned about the testing strategy. So
I think that's the point, right? So I think what I tend to see is that when organizations start looking at moving to S4, it's not really a migration to S4. To your point, it's a business transformation project, right? Because they can't really justify the cost, really. They have to do it. A lot of organizations are really battling with this. Look, we need to move to S4, but that's a huge cost to kind of migrate. And there's an organizational impact, right? It's not just within the SAP landscape, actually. The testing solution helps within the SAP landscape, but there is a broader organizational impact because SAP data is consumed within data warehouses, within analytics, so that migration has a much broader impact than just the SAP ecosystem. So a lot of the concerns around, okay, we're driving a business transformation, how are we going to manage this multi-year project and ensure that we're able to kind of do this within a budget that is that we can manage as a business, right? And the concerns are really that they're scared actually that they're going to run massively over. And a critical part of this is having reliable data to be able to kind of test these systems. And what you tend to find is that typically the functional teams within a typical SAP landscape, don't have up-to-date data. So when you embark on this program, you've really got to be able to have reliable test data to be able to ensure that your project runs on time. And our experience over the last few years has been that many of these projects have overrun massively due to rework. They basically got into the functional areas and found that the data quality wasn't correct. They were building on bad data, and therefore they're having to do a lot of rework. And that's really where the costs kind of really spiral, right? Because you're having to extend projects much longer than they're expected. So one of my customers came quite late to us actually after they'd already been, in flight with their migration, because they had such poor data, right? It was really impacting, and they were already running well over a year on their kind of original timescales for migrating to S4. So we're now really seeing that organisations need to really think hard around the test strategy and ensuring that they have the correct data. The other aspect that I think Adrian touched on is because a lot of times these programs are you're outsourcing them or you're using SI partners to deliver these, then there is an impact around ensuring you have secure and you're masking personally identifiable data as well. So that's another use case where a lot of customers come to us, because that's the driving factor, right? Is that they have to share this data with an external party, and that data needs to be masked to comply with GDPR and the regulatory requirements.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks for that, Sunil. I think, and just conscious of the time, and it's a really helpful and very informative session. I'm sure not just for me, for everyone who is going to listen and watch this. So I would like to thank you to both of you for giving us this great session. And now let me just take a moment to share how Exponentia.ai complements the Gold client to deliver the end-to-end solution. So, Exponentia.ai, we are a partner for the S4HANA transformation. We offer a deep expertise in the implementation for Qlik Gold client. And we have been doing this for multiple customers and integrating that with the SAP systems. So we have the domain-driven slicing accelerators, which we have developed on order to cash, procure to pay, financials, claims, loans, manufacturing, pharma in different industries. And we have also got the SAP data engineering and AI teams who can understand not just SAP tables, but the end-to-end business process data, which enables us to rapidly deploy the methodology, what we have built, around 40 to 50% faster deployment because of our accelerators. And we have a pool of around 100 plus certified engineers and 25 Qlik data architects, which talks about the volume and the knowledge what we have got in terms of the organization. And we have done several migration, helped them customers on 20 plus terabytes of data processing daily and $150 plus million value delivered to our customers, right? Now with that, I don't think so we have sufficient time left in for today's session. I would like to bring Adrian and Sunil if they want to add anything towards the end. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, Sanjay. Pleasure to join today's webinar with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Cheers.
Thank you. Take care.